Hello everyone, and welcome back to this 19th episode of Brilliancies by Mikhail. And today we are going to analyze a game played between Mikhail and Edward Meduna at the Bundesliga chess event in 1990. Before starting this episode, let me remind you is that Tal is a tactical beast, and it's really hard to imagine how a person can play throughout his life, every game with the same vision and motivation to find those brilliances, and almost 60-70% he could find that tactical shots in almost 60-70% of his games, I mean to say. And that's a really great thing to do because all the chess players that are watching this, if you're having a rating range between 1800 to 2200, you must always realize that this is the truth. You can't actually make brilliancy every game you play. But this is what Tal certainly holds the record of because, majority of his games are like tactical sacrifices. So yeah, let's see this one. This is versus Edward Meduna, as I already told. And this is the position on the board. Again, the critical point where Tal started to, you know, started his brilliance system. So yeah, if we come to the position here on the screen, Meduna is with the black pieces, Tal is playing with the white pieces, and Meduna has played bishop to e7 in order to castle here short. And once black castles short, white will be still white will have a upper hand in the development, but black's pieces, although passive, they may try to find good squares in future. But at least the king will be safe on g8. So Tau realizes, that shouldn't be allowed. King to be on g8 is certainly not to be allowed. So Tal starts the brilliancy with an amazing knight sacrifice. He plays knight captures on f7. I could have asked you guys to pause the video here, but because this is all about brilliancies, it's I don't feel it right to pause at the very beginning moment. I can. There are two or three moments in this game again where I can ask you guys to pause the video. So Tau plays knight captures on f7 and attacks the rook on h8. And he's basically playing with Meduna's, we can say the ego of a chess player because he has just captured the pawn. If you move the rook, there is no more castling on the king side. You can still castle on this king side, but let's see what happens after that. And if you don't do that, then what else do you have? For example, you have to just capture. There is nothing. If you move the rook to f8, as I already explained, now the castling is no longer possible on the king side. The knight can still come back and attack on the e6 pawn. The king is still going to be center for a lot amount of time because the long castle is going to take a huge amount of time. The bishop has to be developed, the knight has to be developed, and it's going to take. I mean, the game is going to end before that. Rook captures on e6, it's already game over. Even now, rook captures on e6 is possible. So that is why that is not a clear option. The other option is king captures on f7, but this isn't an option as well because now rook captures on e6. And this is the problem. Again, your queen is under attack. If you move the queen, rook c6 check just picks up the queen. And if you're smart enough, you will move the queen to d8 so that there is no discovered check with the rook. But now comes this amazing tactical opportunity that Tal has. So yeah, this is the first moment that you guys can pause the video and find the best move for Mikhail Tal here with the white pieces. Yeah, I hope you guys could find it. It's not a simple move, but it's certainly a move that all of us can consider. So Tal could play here rook captures an f6 check. Again, double check. If you go back to e8, the calm and cool rook back to f4 wins for Tal on the spot because there's nothing. After all that storm is gone, the position is completely equal, and with the opponent's king in the center and completely, under attack with the white pieces, it's very difficult to serve, especially against Mikhail Tal. You cannot even play something like knight f6 because of rook captures on d4. Now the rook aligns with the queen on the d5. It's very close to game over. So this of course cannot be played, and that is why Meduna declines this king captures on f7 move completely. What does he do? Let's find out what does he do. He plays the move queen back to c7. And so he's neither defending the rook, neither is he capturing this, but he's attacking the bishop on c4. And he's like, you can take my rook, but then I'm still going to grab your bishop. The main attacker of the diagonal is gone. And in future, if I get a chance, I'm going to trap. The knight is already trapped, so I'm going to go on g8 and pick up your knight. So I can do it taking time. This position is still winning for Tal because Tal has too many active pieces. There is knight g5, you know, giving support to the h8 knight to come back to f7. But still there would be something that black can play for, and that is why Meduna plays queen to c7. But Tal says, well, no, no, not today. This rook on h8 is not worth 5 points, whereas my bishop on c4 is worth more than that. So bishop captures on e6, saving the bishop first. And again, what do you do? You're in Meduna's place. You have a chance, golden opportunity to castle. Will you castle? Uh, is this working? Well, it turns out that it is not, because now the king is in the fire lane of the bishop on e6. There are tons of ways to win here. Not There is no immediate win here as such because there is no good discovery with the knight, but something like just knight to g5 with the check, king back to h8, and queen captures on h24. Sorry, is sufficient enough to grab a victory because if you see clearly the queen is going to come on h4. There is a lot of material attacking the black king, and I don't think this position is survivable from a human point of view. So again, that means that although castling is open, Meduna certainly cannot castle. So what else can he do here? So maybe he can try to activate his c8 bishop. That is the primary, what we can say, challenger of the e6 bishop. And that is what he exactly does. He plays knight to c5. He says, well, okay, you know what? Let's trade pieces. Let's trade your good bishop versus the my bad bishop here on c8. And then I can certainly have a good game. So Tal says, no, no trade today. Bishop comes back to c4. And now again, Meduna plays, sorry, just a minute. Medina plays b5. Again, attacking the c4. I just ruined the brilliancy by pressing the button twice, but okay. Always you need to think the position as if we are playing the position. So now find the best move for Tal here. Of course, you guys all know because I've shown it. But a normal person, because the bishop is under attack, would take the pawn, right? Pawn is free. Why not take the pawn? Well, it turns out that now the king can certainly take the knight because the bishop on c4 was certainly guarding the knight on f7. So now king captures on f7 is certainly possible. So that means that this is a nice deflection tactic, for all those beginners players who are watching this video. And basically, you can move the bishop now to d5 or take the pawn and lose your knight here, or you can take the rook on h8. So what does Tal do? Tal says, no, nothing of this. He captures a pawn on d4. He says, now you can have my bishop, but now my queen is there to attack. So Meduna does capture. He captures on c4. And now again, Tal plays an excellent move. So feel free to pause the video. This is not a simple move. This is not a extraordinarily brilliant or something move, but this is a very important move that is important for beginner players to understand how attack is to be conducted. So you can find it by giving a couple of seconds. Yeah. So for all those who you could find it, you're now a great developer of pieces, and I'll place bishop to f4. He says, well, okay, one of my bishops is gone. The queen is into the game. Now let's start with the other bishop. And this is much more riskier because the bishop on e7 is certainly now going to be under fire. You will see how. So bishop to f4, attacking the queen. You have queen to b6 now. Of course, you have to move away from the fire line of the bishop. You have no time to capture the knight. And now comes knight captures on h8. So yeah, Tal has got an exchange, but his nice light square bishop, which he could have kept, is now gone. So let's see how Medina, continues this. So at first place, bishop e6. He says, well, okay, now great that the bishop is gone from c4. Now I can take control of at least the light squares. But Tal says, now, no, no problem. I'm not going to allow this bishop to settle on e6. Knight to g5 now, attacking the bishop on e6. And at first point, if you see this move, you see that, the bishop is guarded twice, the bishop is getting attacked twice. So is there an actual threat here? Where it turns out that there is. Because if you attack the knight with something like h6, just knight captures on e6, you cannot take with the queen because of the rook. And if you take with the knight, this is nice little intermezzo, queen captures on b6. The queen was defending the knight, so you first remove the defender. That is what I can call it, in the theory of tactics way. This is removing the defender tactic. And after x captures, this rook captures on e6. Uh, you're clearly winning the game. You're up a whole rook. You should not forget this rook on a1. He's watching all the drama. He's ready to come with rook to e1. For example, if king to d7, it looks like the black king is attacking the rook. Black rook is attacking the white knight, but simply rook to e1. Now the bishop is under fire. If you capture the rook, I will just capture the bishop on e7, and it's completely winning game for all. So again, that is not possible. You're just down the rook. You can't just allow white to get a clear advantage like this. So what do you do here? Well, now Medvedev again he has to find something to do. He brings his last piece into the attack with rook to d8, and he says, "Well, okay, now you can't take the bishop because for now the queen is under fire on the d4." So again, this is one of the moments where Tal plays absolute terrible stuff. This is I'm not given a spoiler already. I hope so. I'm not given a spoiler. But this is the move that Tal plays, and this is the reason that I have included this particular game in the series of this Mikhail Tal. So feel free to pause the video one last time in this game and find the best move for Tal here. Yeah, I hope you could find it. This is a difficult one, really difficult one. There are a couple of these moves. You can come back to e3 and try to put in pressure on the two bishops and the king. This is one of the best moves. But what Tal plays is also a very nice move. So Tal plays queen captures on c5. He says, well, I don't need a queen either now. And how can you capture back the queen? There are two different ways. Of course, if you capture with the bishop, simply rook captures on e6 with a check. You have to give up your queen for something like this, and then after knight captures on c5. Supposedly rook c8, knight captures on c5, rook captures on c5. You are up a piece with the knight, and you guys may ask, well, can't the king just go and capture the knight? Well, it turns out no, because rook to e1 with a check. You can't step on f7 because of the knight himself, and if you step on king f8 to capture the knight, well, this is a mistake because of bishop d6 check. Yeah, it is a double attack. And after king to g8 trying to capture the knight, well, you get the knight, but at the cost of your rook, and you're now down a whole rook and you're completely losing the game. There's no use of playing such thing on this Mikhail. So again, that is the main problem. So that is why you cannot capture with the bishop. Well, you can ask me, okay, I will still capture with the bishop, and for rook e6, I will not capture the queen, sorry, the rook with the queen, and allow you a nice little four. Where in this case, I will just move away with the king. But it turns out that even this doesn't work because simply rook captures on d6. And what do you do if you capture the knight? Sorry, not this way, like this. Then I'm going to defend my rook, something like rook b7 check, fetches me the win. And if you capture my rook, then simply rook to d1 with the check, and there is no way to save this game. For example, if king e8, just rook captures on d8, bishop captures on d8, knight back to f7, and Tal's up a piece in a completely winning endgame. And I think he's about a couple of pawns also, so there's no way that black can survive. So again, so that isn't a way either. So that means that bishop captures on c5 is completely ruled out. Yeah. So Edward plays queen captures on c5. Now Tal says knight captures on e6. That is the reason I've sacrificed my queen so that I can force the rook and the queen. And this is not a simple position to play for black. I mean, there are several tempting ideas, but Tal has calculated everything of that. For example, you will see that the knight is guarding the bishop. So at first you may feel that, okay, how can I attack the bishop? Because the knight is certainly going to capture the rook on d8. And that is why I have to also capture something in return. So probably queen f5 looks a good move to attack the bishop. So that queen f5, knight captures here, just queen captures on f4, and still I have something to play. But it turns out that now this f5 square is cursed because now knight g7 check picks up the queen with a 4. So that is not possible either. And that means that after knight captures on e6, sorry, you can't attack the bishop. There is only f5 square to attack the bishop. If not the bishop, what else can you do? Maybe retreat back with the queen, something like queen to c6 or queen to b6. There's a good debate about where the queen should go. If you play queen to c6, just knight captures on d8, king captures on d8, rook a to d1 with a check. Sorry. And yeah, again, it's difficult. If you step here, the bishop is lost, and if you step here, just bishop d6 picks up the game for you. Now, deepening down the analysis because today we have some time for an analysis. You guys can calculate what happens if black plays knight e5. Of course, knight e4 loses to captures, and rook to d4, double attacking the knight. You're just winning the game completely. But what happens to knight to d5? You guys can calculate it by like giving a couple of seconds. Let me have some water till then. I think I forgot my bottle in the different room. But okay, no issues. You guys can find them. Yes. Yeah. For those who were able to find it, you're now the best. I will say not the best, but I will say that you have now understood the meaning of compensation. So the best move for white here is to capture the knight. Rook captures on d5. If the queen captures, this rook captures on e7. And this king is terrible. If you go to f8, just rook e6 check. Uh, you cannot go here because of rook e8 checkmate. The knight covers the f7 square, and the rook delivers a nice little checkmate. And you cannot go anywhere else. That means that you need to sacrifice your queen, and this is a completely winning endgame for white. Again, that means that you cannot go to f8. If you go to d8, then the knight hunts down the king after king c8, rook c7 check, king b8. Now rook c5 check picks up the queen. Again, you have to either give up your queen for the bishop, or else it's completely resignable for bishop. So yeah, that's the reason knight d5 is also something that you cannot play. So in the game, of course, pertaining to all these tactics, I don't think Edward Medina could see all these things because the move that he played is even worse. Queen b6. Now comes bishop c7, simply double attacking the queen and the rook. And it turns out that this is completely losing now. There is no way for Edward to get out of this. You can try and stay closer to the black king, but it doesn't help. Something like queen to c6, just bishop captures on d8. You cannot take the king because the knight is defending the bishop, and if you take with the bishop, just knight d4 check picks up the queen because there is a discovered check to the black king. So yeah, again, same is the story with queen b7. So Edward tries queen captures on b2. He tries to maintain the distance away from the king so that the knight doesn't have a nice discovery. But now simply knight captures on d8 by Tal, and you cannot still take the rook because of you know the bishop is guarding the rook, so there is nothing else. I think Tal even did play this move knight captures on d8. You know, after bishop c7, I think Edward resigned it. He was going to play queen captures on b2, but then he realized knight captures on d8, and there is nothing more to be done. So yeah, again a brilliant stuff after this knight queen captures on c5 by Edward, and sorry by Tal. Apologize. And this queen capture on c5 is one of the moves that really tempted me to include this game in the series. That is why, you know, I myself cannot spot queen captures on c5 in maybe 2 or 3 minutes because it's not that simple. Right? We have to also see why queen captures on c5 is the correct option after this and this. Knight captures on e6 is the main idea. Forking, not only forking, but also forking so bad that the other rook is going to come. That's a very key thing that white has to notice before playing queen captures on c5. That is what makes the move so special. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. To stay tuned for the series and next episodes. They are going to be with the same excitement and with the same brilliancies. Of course, I'm just a person who is trying to deliver this brilliancies to all of you. The guy who has played it is the main master. And it's much easier to explain those tactics and analyze, put some arrows on the board and explain the tactics. But it's much more difficult to spot them and play them in a live game. That is what Tal has done. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Do subscribe to our channel if you haven't, and stay tuned for the next episode of Brilliancies.